So guys, let's talk about some fun stuff, shall we? All right. So, Talladega Super Speedway. Uh that race happened. We have yet another first-time winner of the season, Brad Keselowski, who was my pick to win the race, not to brag. So Crow, why don't you start us off? What did you think of Talladega Super Speedway and how that race went?
Oh, it was nice to have a race that I actually remember. Like, fun things happened. It was enjoyable to watch.
Like, what did you enjoy about it?
Oh, it was just fairly good racing throughout the whole run of it. Um, Lots of you know a nice you know assortment of people up running up front. A lot of people that we don't necessarily see. Really liked seeing Ross Chastain up front. Really good to see Bubba Wallace win the stage. Um, uh, it never really turned into a single file. We're just gonna kind of lay back and chill out race, which was great.
Oh, oh, well, I tweeted like in the towards the end of stage two, like I think the odds of this race going into a single file are slim, and then they did in the middle of the final stage, I think with like 30 to go, and I was like, really now's when we go single file.
Yeah,
um,
when you had people start worrying about their fuel, it definitely like lined up. But other than that, like I think it was a very good competitive race. Um, Got to see some of the favorites running up front with McDowell and Blaney, and um, you know Hamlin continues his streak of just doing absolutely stupid things and still dominating in the points.
yeah, yeah, he leads the points by like a clear margin. And he was kind of on his way to getting back on the lead lap after he had his it was two speeding penalties, right?
There was a speeding penalty coming
Oh
into
yeah, it
pit
was.
row.
Yeah,
He may have pitted outside of his box. It was really close.
yeah,
And then when he came in for his speeding penalty, he sped on pit road again.
yeah. So
And then he raced his way back up to the front, one lead lap off. And I think did he get that's when he got into the wreck.
yeah, they were coming out turn four,
Yeah,
and he moved up in front of Truex and then clobbered the wall.
yeah.
So Darryl, Phil, is there a more iconic duo than Jenny Hamlin and speeding penalties?
Probably not. I think he gets more. He might have the league lead for speeding penalties among active drivers. I don't know what it is about pit road, but Hamlin just cannot get slowed down. And he said on the radio, "I can't stop it," referring to trying to get the brakes slowed down, because in the super speedways they don't run that many. They don't run that big. Sorry, a brake package. But you could say that for any other track, because if there's going to be a speeding penalty, more than likely it's going to be Hamlin that gets it.
Yeah, I'll say that maybe there is one duo that is better than that, and
Okay.
that's Ryan Newman and blocking. So, but it's just like we've said, Denny continually can do stupid stuff during a race, somehow make it up, but he couldn't do it this past week. It was, and listening to Radioactive yesterday and hearing him say, "I can't slow it down," and they told him, they were like, "Well, these are the same super speedway brakes you've always had. What's the issue?" For Denny, it's just like,
well, I think what part of the problem was there were still weepers down on the apron on the way down into the pit entrance. So I think that played at least a little bit into why he had trouble slowing down, just a little bit.
yeah, it would make sense then, but it's just like Denny's either gonna win a race or he's gonna dominate and lose it in the last 10 laps, or he's gonna go and try to make a block coming to the end of the stage, and then get punted into the wall. So But he'll do it where he has enough points accumulated that he'll keep going for the foreseeable future until we get to the playoffs, where it's actually gonna matter how many wins you pretty much are gonna need to see if it can push you over to the next round, and hopefully you can finish the job this time. Can only be regular season champion a few times before it's like you need to go ahead and capitalize on that and get to Phoenix.
Yeah, I think Hamlin he might be on his way to having like Terry Labonte 1996 championship season.
yeah consistent, but he'll just get one win and everybody will be like, he shouldn't have won the championship because he only won one race. Like, does Matt Kenseth ring a bell for any of you? But,
yeah, well, they changed the rules because of Matt Kenseth.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Kenseth is the reason we got here. Which is the sad part.
Matt Kenseth was so boring in that one season. They were like, never again. Let's just make up a playoff format and have people complain for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I every time I see someone tweet, it's like, go back to the old playoff systems. Like, I just want to say that, yeah, we are in our 15th or 16th year of this. We're not going back. So.
Yeah. And somebody had a good point the other day, and I'll probably retweet it on my Twitter, but somebody said that we've had the playoffs, or at least we've had the chase playoff format.
Yeah.
For a longer amount of time than I guess the modern era points from like I think at some point in the 80s all the way to 2003. We've had what we have now for a longer period of time. I forget how it goes.
Well, no, technically the modern era started in 72.
72, yeah.
So no, that's not. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah, but it was something about, I think, I don't know if they do like a points. It was like a format change. I don't know. I guess if it was the 185, I don't know, but they said that they only had it for like 13 years or something. I don't know, but yeah. But either way,
Points before 72 were weird.
Oh yeah,
the best way to put it.
Yeah, you also had somebody win 47 races, so I can't even watch 47 races. Take a week.
And folks will complain about the playoffs and we don't get a full season champion. You still do, because you have to be good in the first 26, and then you got to be good in the next 10. Ask Kevin Harvick, because people keep bringing up Harvick not winning the championship last year. Harvick had the worst 3-race stretch of that season at the worst time. That's on him. And I'd rather see it come down to that than seeing the championship leader going into October just finishing 10th the last 10 races and backing into the championship. Because how many times did we go to Homestead, even in the chase format for that matter, where Jimmy's just riding around in 13th and then he slides up into 7th to win the championship like the last 15 laps or so. That's not exciting. Now it's actually exciting, and every race does actually matter because now it builds up towards the end instead of falls out towards the end. But people on Twitter will be people on
Twitter. So Talladega in general, what do you think about super speedway races? Which do you prefer, Daytona or Talladega?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think right now Dega is incredible. Just you can get 3 or 4 wide there, and the finishes seem to always be crazy. The problem with the Daytona 500 recently has been rain, so the race hasn't been that great. And then of course this year we ended up wrecking half the field 20 laps in, so it completely changed the complexity of what that race was going to look like. But Talladega has been consistently just a race where you go to and you're going to see something that's going in the NASCAR history books. And it's been a lot of fun the last few years. This race on Sunday was a lot of fun with all the two wide action that we saw. And we didn't have a big one. You know, we didn't have that wreck that wiped out 30 cars. We did have Joey Logano go upside down, which we'll probably talk about, but it was a good race, and most of the cars made it to the finish this time. So I think right now I got to say Talladega.
Yeah, I'm more of a Dega person myself, especially even when I'm like watching old races. I'm mostly checking out some of the late 80s, early 90s Talladega races. And Talladega has kind of been chaos over the last almost 40 years, you know. Talladega is the reason why we have restrictor plates, you know, because Bobby Allison went into the fence. You know, we've seen, you know, Jimmy Horton. He's the reason why we have the backstretch, you know, the fence on the backstretch. You know, we saw him leave, you know, go into the parking lot, basically. You know, and then we see Ricky Craven basically get tangled up into that fence, but, you know, able to get into a car the next week. You know, Talladega. Go ahead.
I think that Craven accident, because I like, you know, I go through and I watch all the Cup races in order. I started with 95. That Craven accident has to really be like the first like benchmark of just a completely ridiculous multi-car wreck in the restrictor plate era. Like there were big wrecks before it, but that's like the first one. You're like, oh, that's not good at all. And I think from that point on, it's just we get it like every 3 years to something just completely just too far. So
yeah, because I'll say I think it was either 90 or 91. It's the one I think that Ernie Irvan started, where there was a wreck on the backstretch, and that was the one where Mark Martin almost got upside down, and I think it was the same race Cal Petty broke his leg in. But after that, you didn't see it. You know, you maybe saw one car get upside down, and normally that car was Rusty Wallace for some reason. But you know, like you say, after 96, it was just like it didn't matter whether it was Cup or if it was Busch or, you know, Xfinity for our new listeners. You know, somebody got into the, you know, got upside down, and then normally it took 10, 15, 20 cars out. And that's what I will say I did like about this week's race, where it wasn't, you know, the crash them up. You know, we didn't have, you know, we had maybe that one or, you know, 3 or 4 car accident, but, you know, most of the people were able to carry on. I mean, you look at Byron. Byron was involved, I think, in that stage 2 crash, and then he goes on to finish second.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was, you know, I don't know if it's a testament to the cars that they're building, but, you know, you look at that and it's just like, hey,
Keselowski was involved in the Logano wreck.
Yeah.
He got tagged and spun around in turn 3 and 4, and he wound up winning right in front of Byron. Yeah.
So maybe the lasting effect is that you have to get into an early wreck to be able to win at Daytona or Talladega. So
get those lumps out the way. And by the way, we can't talk about Talladega and not talk about the 2002 Aaron's 312
on
lap 14, where we like destroyed the entire Xfinity field.
The old
that was incredible.
It's easier to tell you how many cars are left than there are to tell you how many that were involved.
So my favorite is Talladega, because it's wider. So there's more escape routes for drivers. It's more forgiving. So and I also like it because the finish line is farther down the front stretch. You got a much longer runway that something can happen, and unlike Daytona, where if you're halfway through that first dog leg, it's over. So that's one reason why I like Talladega. Do I like watching Talladega races? I super speedway racing. I said this last week. People lose IQ points, in super speedway racings, and it's luckily we didn't get the big one this time around. I think the biggest one was only 8 cars. So this was a fun race to watch. When Bubba got up there to the lead, congratulations to Bubba Wallace. He got to the front of restrictor plate race, and he stayed there for a little bit. Up until this point, he's shown a knack for getting up there, but he couldn't keep it. He'd be there like a lap, maybe 2, and then he'd lose it. And I don't know what his final lap total was. What was it? 20.
Well, I think it was like 16 that he led. I'll got a page up, so I'll check it right now. I think it was 16.
Yeah, 16. It was 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he leads 16 laps, and he finally, like, it's clear the 2311 team has a good super speedway program. Clear. Wheels, Mike Wheeler, his crew chief, keeps getting crucified on Twitter for his pit road decisions. But I'm looking forward to them getting back to Daytona at the end of the season to see what they can do now they have 2 super speed two races under the belt on super speedways. So Phil, I have a question for you. Whenever you're tweeting about 2311, you use we, and I know sports fans. I've done it. I'm guilty of it. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I will drop a we every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I feel like it might be different when you say we in 2311 racing. I was wondering if maybe you could explain why you refer to it as we.
Well, I feel like with 2311, when I say we, it's because I feel invested. This is the first race team where I felt like, okay, this is something that I can latch onto. Like, I've been a Hendrick Motorsports fan for 25 years.
Okay.
And I mean, I won't say never at that point, never at any point did I feel like, I felt like, hey, it's a one big fraternity, and you always hear the drivers talk about, Hendrick Motorsports being a group effort, that everybody works together, everybody talks to each other. But in a sense, from being a fan, you have so many people that follow all of the different drivers. When they say we, you don't know who they're talking about. Whether they're talking about Larson or Byron or Bowman or Chase. But with 2311, it's just kind of like, hey, this is something. When I spend my money on merchandise for them, it feels like, hey, I'm helping this team. Granted, it's going in the, either Bubba's pockets or somewhere in the merchandising and all of that. Yeah, that's fine. But when I put my time and effort in, when I stand up for that team when they're being talked about bad, or somebody has something smart to say, it feels like I in a way, I don't want to say it's like gatekeeping it, but it's like,
Okay.
I feel a connection to the team, and I've felt that connection since we, since everything came together.
You said a we. You dropped a we.
There's it. Since we came together, yes. But it feels like a moment in time where it's like, I don't know, at some point, would somebody, would they open it up where people could get invested in the racing by, being able to donate or something like that. But it feels like every time that I do something, whether it's, sharing a post or, buying a shirt or telling people where they can get merchandise of theirs, it feels like I'm a part of the team. And like you say, in other sports, you stand up for your team. When you stand up for them, you say we. And that's always just been my use of we. I do it with my Ravens. I do it with the Orioles. Uh, I am one of those people that when I'm a fan, I'm invested into it. So,
What about you, Darryl? How do you view it?
I tried to get away from the we sometimes, but it's sometimes you just gotta go with it. I mean, for the first time, it's a team for, or not, I was going to say for us, but made by us. So you get more emotionally invested into it. And I try to avoid getting into Twitter fights because at the end of the day, it's not really conducive to anything positive. But with some of the way people talk wise about 2311, my fingers start typing before I realize I'm like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing for 15 minutes. But it's a team that I'm looking at towards the future to get bigger. That when Denny accidentally leaked the plans of the race shop, they've got plans for 4 cars. I expect Roger Carruth at some point will be in one of those seats.
Really?
So it's going to be Bubba, Raja, and whoever else they find. It's going to be exciting to see that team grow, and I really want to see it grow because I really think Bubba can be a good driver, and a lot of the people that are getting their licks in on a first-year team, I think we have to keep stressing that. It's a first-year team are going to be eating crow 3 or 4 years down the line.
Yeah, right. and I'll say this too. It's a different time than when everyone else started their race teams. Like, the energy that they're giving 2311 now, where, I wonder where this energy was, when RCR started, when Hendrick started, or, All-Star Racing. Where was this when Roush started up? Where they laughed out of the building, where they told, oh no, go back and do something else, oh, you can barely run a basketball team. Michael Jordan is one of the, greatest athletes of all time, but because you're going to base his business decisions with the Hornets on, a team that was built basically before he came into ownership, and because their track record as being, the Bobcats or anything wasn't good, oh, well, he can barely run a basketball team, how is he going to run a race team? If you're running a race team and you have the people that you have already in place, it basically, and I hate to say it in a way, it's just like Michael's lending his name to the situation. I know he's said what he expects, but at the same time, Denny is in there to keep things at a realistic point of view. And, it's just like people need to keep that same energy with all of the other teams. I hear more, vitriol towards 2311 and then I do Trackhouse. And I guess, Trackhouse is backing up what they preach. They go out there and get the top 10s, top 15s. But, people have done the math. The results are there. The stats are there for Bubba. It's the finishes, like we said about, Mike Wheeler, some of the questionable decisions that he makes. But people judge Bubba off of a finishing position more than they do looking at the race. They're not listening to the radio like, some fans do and are able to take in what they're saying, what they're feeling. They're not zeroed in on looking at the stats to see where that driver is. It's, Bubba finished 25th. Yeah, but talk about that part of the race where he was top 8, top 10 until an issue comes up. And I mean, you should do that for any driver. You know, you shouldn't just look at that finishing position as how the race went. It's just like 2011 said on Twitter after the race Sunday. The finishing position does not talk about how hard we fought all day. And like you say, you know, with Bubba being up front for those 16 laps, that was a source of pride. And like you say, we checked that box. But the finish pretty much, you know, in a way made people negate it and say, oh, well, look at them, another non-top 10 finish. Where are the top 10s? I thought you said you could run up there. And it, like Darryl said, it's just like wasting brain cells trying to explain to some fans out there. And it's just like, I'll say something. I don't even turn, you know, notifications off on it. You can say what you want. Basically, it gets weeded out anyway. But mostly other people take care of that. You know, they're in the trenches, I guess, of a Twitter war, and you know, ready to stand up for what they believe in. So
I think a lot of it too is that they're 2311 is trying to win, and they've made a lot of decisions that look like bad decisions only because they are doing what they need to do to try and win. In the case of Talladega, he could have stayed out there and probably gotten back up into a top 10, right? But if I remember correctly, he went from worst to first at the start of the race, right?
Oh no! Oh yeah!
So he's got the speed. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
put the new tires on it because they wanted to give him the only opportunity he had to win. And so that, I think that's, you know, people are going to criticize no matter what. You know, if he goes out there and it's full on, you know, we're going to wreck her, we're going to win, people are going to criticize him for driving too recklessly. You know, if he goes out there and drives conservatively and gets a bunch of top 10s, they're going to criticize him because he can't win. You know, there's no right way to do things. They're going for the win because they want, you know, I assume they want to get in the championship run.
Mhm.
You know, and I mean, they're doing better than most teams, in my opinion, and especially one brand new.
Yeah, the team didn't exist in October, so I mean, the like major difference between 2311 and Trackhouse is in house at RCR. They're literally a third RCR car. 2311's working out of the old Germain Racing Truck Series shop. So they're detached, and you have to take into account COVID stuff. They're not all together at the same time and all of this. So, and the last time a Cup Series team won in its first year of existence was Hendrick in 1984. So Roush didn't win until its second year. And they're doing good for what they came in with. Bubba led his 23 laps at Martinsville, career best. That's nothing to shake your stick at or whatever. That's an accomplishment. And this weekend in Talladega was an accomplishment. He got a stage win. They needed that. Like that's important. And I know that Darian Gilliam, aka Black Flag Matter, he noted it hours later. So Bubba Wallace is the first African American driver to win a Cup Series stage. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So does that stat mean, how much does that mean to you guys? He is the first black driver to win a Cup Series stage.
Didn't really think much about that, mainly because we just got stages, but it's still a cool stat nonetheless.
yeah, I'll say that, you know, it's a cool stat, and like I said, it's more stage wins than Jeff Gordon, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, you know, because like he said, you know, we just got stages within the last couple of years or so, but it's an important moment in history. You know, it's one of those, you know, it's up there in, you know, small sample sizes. You know, you can say it's up there with, you know, the Wendell Scott win. It's up there with, you know, Bill Luster making the start. because those are moments that NASCAR doesn't always see. And, it'll stand out. It's not going to, if Bubba makes a habit of doing it, it won't mean as much. But if, you say, well, remember when he did this, let's say if he decided to retire today or tomorrow, just because of everything that's going on, you can say that's a moment that stands out. There'll never be another first time African American stage winner.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So a certain driver finished in third place. Crow, who finished in third place on Sunday?
That would be the podcast, or at least half the podcast favorite driver, Michael McDowell.
Yes.
You mean the guy
that means it is
on the wall by the door?
Yes. That is my NASCAR merch that I have. The only piece of NASCAR merch I have in my house that I got because, got to support the guy we talk about every week.
Good eye, Phil. Good eye. But yes, it is time for McDowell Watch. All right. Michael McDowell. He finished third Sunday at Talladega. It is his fourth top 10 of the season, tying his career best total of 4 from last year. It is also his second top 5 of the year, matching his career best from 2 years ago. He's now 13th in points, and I believe that's up from 4 last week. So here's an interesting stat, guys. I don't think this has been highlighted anywhere that I've seen. But McDowell finished in the top 10 in all 3 stages of the race. That is the first time that a Front Row Motorsports car has earned points in every stage of a Cup race. So there's your interesting Front Row Motorsports stat for the week. He finished 8th in stage 1, 4th in stage 2, and 3rd in stage 1. So what do you guys think about the season that Michael McDowell's putting together so far this year? It's automatically, with his Daytona 500 win, the best of his career. And he's already matched his career best totals in top 5s and top 10s already, and we're only through 10 races.
It's been surprising, and also says that Front Row Motorsports, they're really building something over there. Michael surprised us with the Daytona 500 win, backed that up with some good runs earlier through the season. The last couple of races, however, at Martinsville, Richmond, didn't really go the way he wanted to, but bounced back with a great race. We know he's a good plate racer, and he showed it running the top 10 of all 3 stages at Talladega. So yeah, good little season for McDowell.
Not only that, he was like, a quarter of a lap away from leading at the end. He was right there. It could have gone his way.
Oh, I thought right as they hit the apex of the tri-oval coming to the checkered, I thought he was going to get it. But then he wasn't able to slow Keselowski down enough.
Yeah. When when he won the 500, part of me was like, oh, well, it's Daytona. Anybody, I hate to say it, if you're up the front towards the end of the race, you have a great chance because people in front of you are probably going to do something stupid to allow you to be able to win. He made it through that storm of a wreck at the end. And I said, well, he'll be in the playoffs, but, I don't expect the consistency to hold up. But then you go to Daytona Road Course, and it's like, oh, okay, pulls I think a top 10 out of that race. And then he just goes on, and it's just like, okay, this team isn't going away. And like Darryl said, it's showing that Front Row is building something. They're no longer going to be that team that, oh, we're just competitive on plate tracks. They showed it in in spurts kind of last year, and especially with and I will say, you saw last year when John Hunter was driving for them, how he had some races where he was about top 15, top 20 every in some races, and then towards the end, he would get involved in a wreck or something that wasn't his fault necessarily, but it's showing that, hey, we're here to play now. We may not be as big as some of the other teams, but we're shooting to be there. And that's after what, maybe close to 5 or 6 years of mediocrity, where they did have guys like David Reagan or and Michael McDowell, guys that would finish up front at a plate track, but then other races they're 25th through 30th. And now it's just like, when I see them on the track, it's just like, oh, okay, here comes McDowell. He's gonna, probably get a top 10, top 15. And I think he's out with something to prove this season now with Daytona in his back pocket. He's not just gonna lay back and say, oh, well, we'll coast until the playoffs. No, they want to get another win. They want to be multiple time winners in the season, and eventually I think they'll come along with Alfredo. And do I think he's punching above his weight a little bit? I think so, but there's a good chance that he could get up there and maybe start getting some top 15, top 20s if things start falling his way and he stays out of wrecks and stays out of trouble. So
I think really the season and where races are located on the schedule are going to benefit him, because you had his Daytona result, which led into a road course, which he's good at. And then you had that good result that led into Homestead, another track he's actually decent at. So he was able to stack those together. And while he hasn't been exceptional since then, you get the Talladega finish. He starts third in Kansas. Okay. So you don't know what he could parlay that into. But then you got Coda next month. You don't know where that's going to parlay into. And when you have all these road courses there, well, while he's not the best road course driver, he does have somewhat of an affinity for him. And so then you throw in Daytona in the season finale, and then you got Talladega again in I think the second round. So there'll be stretches of the year where you don't hear from him. But I think the way certain races are spread out and the way they lead into other events, the schedule works in his favor in ways that it didn't before this year. So, all right. So Kansas guys, first off, what do you think of the Bushy McBush race 400? I think Phil just died a little bit on the inside.
I enjoy the one joke though, where everyone's like, "Is it a cup race or is it a Bush race?" But I think Bush kind of knew where they were going with that name, and they just wanted the people to donate the money, which is fine. It was going to the farmers, but none of your choices were ever going to get picked for a race. And for people to vote on it and say, oh, yeah, let's call it Bushy McBush race. And I feel bad for guys like Mike Joy and other people that have been around the sport a long time that have to deal with us.
I think at this point, I think at this point, we should all know that if there's an online poll to name something, it's going to be something McSomething. And if there's a poll to send someone for a concert or something like that, they're going to go to Alaska.
Yep.
That's how they work now.
We're just gonna make a. Well, I was going to make a joke and say, yeah, NASCAR will go to Alaska, but then we saw that ice race. Was that the Euro Series? I think
That was NASCAR Euro Series on ice. They look like they're going to do some ice racing soon.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, I can't wait for Mike Joy to look straight into the camera and with all the gravitas and professionality that Mike Joy has garnered over the last 40 years to say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bushy McBush Race 400. It's good. That will give me joy for, hey, pun, see what I did there for joy. For at least 3 days. I will be able to use that as a pick-me-up for at least 3 days.
You actually stole my thunder because I was going to say that. I cannot wait until Mike Joy has to say Bushy McBush Race 400. Oh, it's going to be glorious. I want to thank the fans that voted for that because now we're going to have that sound bite for immortality and it's going to be glorious.
Well, my submission for the race was the higher Daniel McFadden 400. That's what I submitted. I don't know where it finished in the running. I can only imagine it was in the top 5. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it was it just missed out on the top 4. I would really like to know, like, what was the entire list? I know, some of the people we follow on Twitter mutually, they wanted to go for the Cuppy Car 400.
Yeah.
Which that would have worked. I think that would have worked. Still would have sounded goofy coming out of Mike Joy's mouth. But, maybe in the future they'll allow us to name other races. And, hopefully Mike Joy decides to take his retirement at that point. So
No, I think we need to go for the next race. It needs to be the Joy McJoy Mike Joy fun drive race
325
featuring Mike Joy.
At Coda, hashtag Mike Joy.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, we should start that campaign now. So okay, guys, what do you guys think about Kansas Speedway in general? In my personal opinion, it's might be the least memorable of all the intermediate 1.5 mile tracks. It definitely doesn't need two races, but it does. So, but here we are. It's really weird to go from Bristol Dirt to Martinsville to Richmond to Talladega, and then it feels like we're ending on this very weird note at Kansas.
Look at it as a rest race as far as excitement because we've got Coda next week where track limits are not going to exist and all the F1 people are going to be mad, but it is one of the tamer, I can't even call it one of the tamer mile and a halves anymore because over the last couple of years, we've seen some pretty big wrecks there actually. Ryan Preece most recently, but it's not a track that I'm going to say has the most memorable races all the time. I know Jeff Gordon won the first 2 there, but being a Jeff Gordon fan, of course, I'd remember and love that. It's also been a good Hendrick track, but it's really one of those tracks that it's there and I'm glad we're racing at, but it's not one of those where I'm like, oh yeah, we're really going to have a great race at Kansas this week.
Like, I can't remember a decent Kansas race just like off the top of my head. Usually you name a track, you can go, hey, there was that one time, but I can't do that with Kansas.
Yeah, no. For me, I don't know. Like Darryl said, I remember when Jeff Gordon won the first 2 races there. First one was called the Protection 1 400. Don't ask me why I still remember that. I didn't Google it, but yeah, I remember him winning that race, and then from there, because I remember he won. Didn't he? I think because I think he won the Chicagoland race too. So, but no other race comes to mind, honestly. Like I remember the time I think Biffle and Keselowski got into that wreck, and I think that was like 20. I don't know. It was sometime. I think it was like 2013, 2015. I remember they got into that wreck, but it literally was the only exciting thing about that race. Wrecks shouldn't be exciting, but it's honestly that race where if you fall asleep while watching it, it's fine. You haven't missed anything. It's more than likely, well, in the past you could say it's more than likely going to be dominated by Kevin Harvick, but I don't know about this year. So probably be Denny Hamlin.
Well, I want my pick is let's see. I think Larson might do good.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, because he has kind of dominated the intermediates so far this season. But it's a race where it's kind of like, does it need as many laps as it has? And do we really need to go here twice? And the answer is no.
I just realized that for my entire life, either Kansas or Texas has been the closest like Cup Series race to me, and it's never once occurred to me to go to a race there.
Well, for good reason, especially with what they've done to Texas. But I was also going to go Kyle Larson this weekend, so I don't want to seem like I'm piggybacking, but I was also thinking Larson because Hendrick does have 7 wins here. This could also be a good bounce back for Kevin Harvick. He does have the best average finish of all the Cup regulars here at 9.3, but Stewart-Haas Racing has just looked so bad this year. I don't know what's going on with that team, so I can't even say Harvick's going to be in the running just with how slow that team has looked.
No, I don't. Harvick, I forgot where he finished Sunday, but it was in the top 10. But hey, he led laps. Kevin Harvick led his first lap since the Daytona 500. And Kyle Busch led his second race of the year. So baby steps for for Harvick and Kyle Busch. So yeah. Okay, so I'm Larson. You're going to Harvick? Is that who you're going, Darryl?
I'm gonna go Larson.
Oh, you're going Larson too. Okay.
Yeah, I don't trust Harvick.
Okay. Bill?
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Larson as well. I was trying to do some research because the reason that I don't want to go Harvick is because for some reason it would seem like it was rigged if the Busch car won the Bushy McBush race 400. But the funny thing is, I don't even know if he's driving a Busch car.
Yes, no, he is. He's because he has the For the Farmers paints game.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it would be funny if he bought out the Mobil 1 car for the race that is his normal sponsor.
So hey, it happens. Drivers win the races that they're sponsored by, at least once every 2 years, typically, something like that. But it happens.
Yeah, so we can start a conspiracy theory.
Crow.
Well, I don't want to make it 4 for 4, so I'm going to go left field, and I no basis for this whatsoever, other than he's kind of ran up front the last few races a little bit. I'm going to go with Chastain. No hope, but that's who I'm going to pick because I like him.
You should save that pick for next week at Darlington, Crow.
Maybe I will. I can pick the same person twice.
Okay. All right.
I did it the last 2 races. Just be happy I'm not saying Martin Truex Jr. again.
All right. So 3 Larsons and a Ross Chastain. Okay. All right. So
I just think he's a nice person because he was on the podcast, and that's my that's my bar.
All right. Okay. All right. So I did remember one Kansas race, guys, when Logano spun Kenseth. There you go. There's your Kansas race memory from 2015.
15, because it was the week before Kenseth got his revenge.
Yep.
No, actually, wasn't it like 2 weeks after? Wasn't it like
it was 2 weeks after because there was racing. I think Texas was in between there. somewhere was in between there.
So, but yeah, Kansas when he spun him in turn 1 and 2. That's your Kansas. That's it, really, that I can think of. So, all right, guys. I think it's going to wrap it up for dropping this episode of Dropping the Hammer. I'm really, really glad we could do this. I really enjoyed the conversation. Where can everyone find you guys? We'll start with you, Darryl.
Well, as always, you can find me at DK Jr. 12 on Twitter. You can also check me out on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. for 2Y Tuesday on WBGR Sports on Facebook, and new on WBGR TV on twitch.com. So also check that out as well. And also on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Spreaker.com/IE Sports Radio, the live recording of The Extra Mile with myself, Christopher Lehman, and Michael Ward. You want to check that out? We talk NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One. So you can always catch me there. Always hit me up on Twitter as well. I'm always bouncing around doing things. So,
all right, Phil.
All right, yeah. And like I said earlier in the show, I have my own podcast, White Silk Racing Podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Google, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, wherever you go, we're there. Like I say, try to update almost every week, if not every couple of weeks. And I'm also on Twitter at Phil in Espanol. If you have a hard time, spelling that out, just search Phil Spain in the space in the search bar. I'll probably be the first Phil Spain that comes up. But other than that, we're probably going to get into recording a few more YouTube episodes. That's the White Silk Racing Show on YouTube. You'll find it. We've only got a couple episodes up, but we're in the process of making some more, and also trying to do a little small documentary on some older, now defunct teams. So that's up in the works and should have some traction on that by summer. So.
Okay, well, thanks for that. What's the story behind your Twitter username?
One of my high school friends, this was almost about 10 years ago. I was just talking on Twitter, and I was just like, I want a new username because my name used to be Phil Spain 90, my name and my birth year. And she was just like, how about Phil Espanol? Because with my last name being Spain, she was like, okay, hey, that'll work out. And then it just stuck. There have been times over the years where I have wanted to change it, but what keeps me from changing it is that I'm known by that for so many things, especially online or, through YouTube and stuff like that. So, and it extends over even into my Instagram and things like that. So it's kind of, personal thing now. I kind of made it my brand. So.
All right. It's good to hear. All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Daniel McFadden, all one word. Last name is McFadin. Hopefully everyone listening knows that by now. You can email me at danielmcfadden@gmail.com and subscribe to my YouTube page, youtube.com/DanielMcFadden. And be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Help spread the word. It's all right. Well, I'm Daniel McFadden. This has been a great episode with Crow, Darryl, and Phil. So thank you for listening to Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadden. Have a great night, everyone. And we're out.
Cool.